Hey everybody, welcome to 100 Year Lifestyle TV and welcome to the family practice. And Dr. Eric Plasker here with a brand new friend, but actually I found out this weekend that we know each other for a long time, right?
Right.
Way back at Life University I graduated in 1985. I won't have Dr. Erin tell you when she graduated, even though it was after me, but it was close. But anyway, what an amazing weekend here at CSW, yes?
It has been.
Yeah, Chiropractic Society of Wisconsin, a great seminar, and we learned something about each other today, that we share a similar story. Is that true?
Yes, we do.
My child, as a lot of you know, my oldest child, Jacob, was injured in a fall, and it left him paralyzed. And we were told by the doctors that he would never walk, talk, or use his arm. And to make that very long story short, I adjusted him, and when I did, he woke up, his breathing stabilized, started to move, and now he's doing all the things that he said he wouldn't do. And many people think that that's like a very unusual experience, even though that I know that it's not. And you share a similar story. It's an amazing story. Would you agree?
Yeah, very amazing.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about your daughter, your practice? Where's your practice, first of all?
Well, I practice in Mukwanago, Wisconsin. And I have a family-oriented practice, helping lots of people, with chiropractic adjustments.
And and I must say, before you even tell your story, a great chiropractor, and the reason I know that is we share similar roots that is a part of the story in the Gonstead technique and the Gonstead system that we both grew up in chiropractically, correct?
Yep, that's correct.
And so being in Wisconsin, you would go to the Gonstead Clinic, and we know Dr. Alex.
Yep, Dr. Alex is a good friend and mentor of mine too.
Absolutely. So tell us about your daughter and tell us what happened.
Well, I was in the kitchen cooking lunch, and the kids were upstairs playing on the bunk bed, and she was 18 months old at the time, playing with her older sisters. And I heard a clunk, and then I heard my oldest daughter scream, "Mom," in that loud, terrifying voice that you never want to hear your kids scream "Mom" in.
Wow.
And then I heard nothing. And I flew up the stairs, and there was my daughter, Charisse, laying on the floor on the edge of a trundle bed that was underneath the bunk bed. Her head appeared to have hit the wooden edge of the trundle bed. And she was laying there silent and still and not moving and not reacting, which was very scary. And as I stood there, somewhat shocked, she started to go rigid and arch her body. And she started to shake, and her body contracted, and she had a seizure. Her eyes rolled back in her head. She drooled, bubbling saliva from her mouth, and I rushed over to pick her up, and I screamed down the stairs for her dad to call the ambulance. And I carried her down the stairs and sat looking at her on the couch, and wasn't sure what to do at this point. She had just gone limp in my arms. She was breathing, but erratically and shallowly. And her color was white, and she just was unresponsive. And I was thinking to myself, I know she needs an adjustment. What are we going to do? And so we got to the hospital. It was a very small country hospital in Elkhorn, and they saw her pretty much right away. They took her in and did a CAT scan. And when the doctor came back with her on the cart, her eyes were open, but she was absent, still pale, unresponsive, laying there. And he said, well, your daughter has had a potential brain injury. There's fluid in the occipital area and of the brain. And he said, we're just going to have you stay here for observation. And so I looked at him and I said, there's nothing broken. And he said, no, there's nothing broken. And so when he left the room, I looked at my daughter, and that's when all the training that I'd had as a chiropractor came into play. And I said, I know she needs an adjustment, but I'm just not sure I can do this. And so
it's scary, especially when it's your own child. I mean, it's scary. I mean, we respect, because of the power of the healing power of the human body. We are, as chiropractors, in awe of that. And at the same time, when it's your own child and you see them laying there, the emotion takes over, and it's sometimes very difficult to be objective.
Yes.
And so what did you do?
Well, I checked her spine, and I found that her occiput was subluxated.
Which means, by the way, that the spine had been injured misaligned, pressure on the nerve, interference in the communication between the brain and the body, which was a major contributor to the cause of this injury.
Yes, so I called a mentor of mine, Dr. Alex from the Gonstead Clinic, who has taught for many years the style of chiropractic I use. And he said, well, he says, you know what you need to do. You just have to get the pressure off the nerve and then let the body heal. And so I did. And within about 5 minutes of the adjustment, her skin began to pink up again. Her eyes became alert. She started to babble and talk to us, and began looking around the room and noticing her surroundings again. Her body regained tone within about a half an hour of the adjustment. She started using her arms and legs again.
Amazing.
And wanting to engage, looking at a book. And
this is within 5 minutes of, because you went over this part of it a little too quickly for my taste, and because when Dr. Alex told you that, I mean, certainly you had adjusted so many kids in your practice and you understand the impact of that, but maybe never had seen an injury to this level, and certainly not in your own child.
And certainly not in my own child. That brings a whole new dimension.
It really does. And so to have the confidence in the body's ability to heal itself, to deliver this specific style of adjustment, you had that even though you were afraid. So you went back into that room, and so you gave that adjustment. So how long did that simple procedure, but very important procedure, take to realign the spine at that moment, remove the interference from the nervous system, like Dr. Alex so eloquently and focusedly said to me, the same exact conversation, when my son was injured. And thank you, Dr. Alex, shout out, right, for all that support and training. But you delivered that adjustment, and then in that moment, literally, tell me what happened when you felt the bone move, or when you felt the adjustment happen.
She literally came back to life in my arms. The spark in her eye came back, the vitality in her body returned, and in that moment, I knew that she was probably going to be okay.
Yeah, and so now this was when she was 18 months old.
Right.
And so today, tell us about your beautiful daughter.
Today she is a very vital, lively 12-year-old girl who dances.
I love happy
plays
endings.
The piano.
So many happy endings in chiropractic. Oh my God! So she's playing the piano. She has a full life, and she's healthy.
Yes.
It's such a beautiful and important story. And I know that this weekend was at this continuing education seminar that I was honored to be able to come and be a part of and speak at, and you sitting in that class and hearing my story, and then you sharing your story. But I've told my story many, many times. This is one of the few times.
Yeah, the first time
you've
in a
ever
public
told
setting, larger than just a small group of a family. I've shared this story with other families I've helped with similar issues with their children. Yeah,
this is a really important story. So if you're watching this and you're thinking about bringing your family to a chiropractor, to Dr. Erin, or to another chiropractor somewhere, maybe one of our 100-year lifestyle affiliate offices around the country, what becomes important is I know that since I've told this story for a long time, I've had a lot of parents that have come to me and told me similar stories about their child where, hey, my child fell off the bed, or my child fell off a bunk bed, or my child fell down the stairs, hit their head, had an injury, and they're still paralyzed 3, 5, 7, 10 years later. And I could see my son years ago. I was watching him looking at other kids that were walking with a lot of more advanced, not healed paralysis, and watching them move and walk, and I could see him looking over saying, wow, I wonder, could that have been me? Would that have been me? And I think what's important here, and what you did and what I was fortunate enough to do because of our training as chiropractors, and thanks again Dr. Alex and the Gonstead Clinic, we got to it right away. We didn't wait. Talk to us a little bit how important it is from your perspective practicing chiropractic. Why is it so important to get kids that have injuries like this or similar types of injuries, maybe just mild head injuries or neck injuries or back injuries playing sports and things like that? Why should we check them right away?
Well, time is really of the essence. I'm convinced that Sharice's quick and uncomplicated recovery was largely due to the fact that she had access to chiropractic care almost immediately after her injury, as soon as we knew that it was safe to adjust her. And in my experience, I've worked with the local midwives in our town and had the opportunity to be part of, when a woman brings life into the world, be right there and be right there to adjust the baby within minutes of birth. And my experience with that is that I wish every child on the planet could receive that kind of care, because I've experienced similarly dramatic improvements in children's ability to function with that adjustment that
immediately
occurs right
after the birth process. Yeah, that's really important. And here's another dimension of it that I also believe is important that sometimes get lost in these stories. Your daughter had a healthy spine before the fall. And so a lot of times we see with adults who maybe have had chronic deterioration that has happened in their spine over decades, maybe kids that have had birth trauma but have never had their spine checked to see if there was any subluxation or interference in the way the nervous system was communicating there, or how the bones were aligned and functioning. And they have accidents and falls, and the damage from the accident and the fall is, number one, that much greater because it happened to an unhealthy spine, and number two, the healing process is often immediate but also requires a lot more work, because you're not just dealing with a fresh and new problem, you're dealing with a chronic problem and a new problem. So checking children, babies at birth, and having your children have healthy spine and nervous system, which you do in your practice, is also every day. And so now you go to work every day and you see your daughter, or you come home every day after working every day and you get to adjust these kids. Have you ever really thought about the impact that you're having, not just on these kids that you're taking care of at your practice, but the generations that may follow?
Yes, and even chiropractic children do. Children of chiropractors and chiropractors that come to our office talk about the importance of the adjustment. And I know, just coming home from school, Sharice will say, I had a friend who was sick today. I hope she's getting adjusted. I know she'll be better faster. Or we had a friend fall off the swings today. His mom's a chiropractor too. I know he'll get an adjustment tonight when he goes home. She has the good fortune to have 3 chiropractic families in her office where the children are children of chiropractors.
Right.
And so there's a consciousness in her class of chiropractic, and they have a very healthy group of kids who miss very little school and recover quickly when they get sick and recover quickly when they're injured.
Yeah, kind of world that I want to live in. How about you?
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, thank you so much, Erin, for being with us. Dr. Erin, you are a very important person, not just in the state of Wisconsin, but really for chiropractors in general, all over the country and all over the world. Sharing your story, it will make a difference to them, giving them a lot more confidence and purpose to get to more children. And certainly if you're anywhere near whatever the city she said, because I probably don't remember it and can't pronounce it. What is it again?
Mukwanago, Wisconsin.
Go get some great chiropractic care and live your ideal 100-year lifestyle. So thanks for watching, everybody, and thanks for being with us, Dr. Erin.
Thank you for the opportunity.
My pleasure.